Ye Xian pulled his sleeve and pleaded with Mr. Bo. It's not what you see. It's Manhwa who started it. She looked at the food box and said, you don't know how much he went overboard. He actually put needles in my sushi. Luckily, I recognize him. Ye Xian stares at Mr. Bo with her sincere eyes. Tears in her eyes. Mr. Bo has to believe me. Believe me. Bo Tingshen lifts up his hand and looks at the girl next to him, saying with a lot of foam. He opened his mouth somewhat helplessly and washed the foam away. Ye Xian quickly waved her hand and smiled. Shen Guanyuanli looked at this scene and thought with some surprise, why would Tingshen let Ye Xian touch him? Is it possible that he has thoughts about Ye Xian? No, this is absolutely impossible. The girl is rinsing the foam from Tingshen's hands. Shen Guanyuanli looks at them and sees that they have discovered him. He opens his mouth with some surprise. Speaking of which, why are you guys here? He coughed a little awkwardly. Tingshen's sports brand sponsors the Provincial Tennis Championship League. I came to watch the game. Ye Xian is looking at Mr. Bo in a daze. Shen Guanyuanli is a bit helpless. Why are you looking at Tingshen with eyes of his own father? Bo Tingshen's eyes are fixed on the girl next to him. She explains with a shy face. Actually, I want to thank Mr. Bo for his impartiality and clear distinction between reward and punishment. You didn't harbor Chen Jingshu because she's your prospective sister-in-law, and you didn't give up on me because of your brother. He knows that Ye Xian has been touched by this, and opens his mouth with some doubt. Bo Tingshen stretched out his hand and pressed it against Ye Xian's chin, promising her, I will protect you, just because you are younger than her, and if more benefits on you that can be extracted. But at this time, Ye Xian has already frowned. When she came back to her senses, she was surprised and shouted out, Bo assured that I will grow up as soon as possible, so that you can squeeze as much as you like. Suddenly a Weibo message appeared on her mobile phone. It showed, Envy, what are you doing? She gripped her phone tightly and thought, how could this be such a coincidence? The last time I saw Mr. Bo, I explained to him. Envy grimaced. This time we can't let him misunderstand us again. She lifts her head in surprise and looks at Mr. Bo with lightless eyes, explaining that the message just now was a spam message. Bo Tingshen doesn't even listen to Ye Xian's explanation and orders her grimly to take out her mobile phone. Suddenly, he holds Ye Xian's wrist and inquires grimly, want me to do it? Ye Xian takes out her mobile phone and puts it into Shen Guanyuanli's hand, who stares at his hand full of confusion. He smiles awkwardly. Mr. Bo, don't you have a cleanliness fetish? I've been touching this mobile phone for a day and is full of germs. At this time, Bo Tingshen opened his mouth, but directly led Shen Guanyuanli to check her mobile phone. Looking at the content of the text message, are you busy? Are you free this weekend? 10 o'clock in the morning. Come out for dinner. Shen Guanyuanli looked at the phone and thought that just by looking at these messages, Jiangxin definitely likes Ye Xian. He returned the mobile phone to Ye Xian and said to Bo Tingshen beside him, it's really rubbish SMS. Ye Xian waved his hand and said, Mr. Bo, it's my turn to audition. I'm going to go and get busy. Next time we'll get together again. Bo Tingshen looks at Ye Xian, who escaped in a puff of smoke and is a bit helpless. He looked at the direction Ye Xian left. His acting was poor. The one who sent him the message just now was Jiangxin. Right. Suddenly he grimly inquired about the content. Jiangxin asked Ye Xian to dine at Romantic Lover at 10 o'clock on the weekend. Shen Guanyuanli looked at Tingshen with some doubt. Why are you asking so clearly? The two of them chatted and left the place. Be Chun-hao for Ye Xian, and let Ye Xian touch you again. Ye Xian looked at the mobile phone walking on the road, thinking that I and her dedication CP and the internet so hot. She looked at the address on top of her phone. She actually dared to make an appointment at the restaurant, not afraid of being photographed. But since she made an appointment, I'll just go over there and discuss with her the specific actions to unbind the CP. On the day of the weekend, she wore a hat, mask and glasses, wrapping herself very tightly. When she arrived at the restaurant, the waiter outside the restaurant hurriedly greeted her. Today, Jiangxin was dressed up very nicely and sighed. Sister Jiangxin, you are so beautiful today. Ye Xian Saturday on the opposite side of Jiangxin and slowly opened his mouth. Aren't you afraid of being recognized like this? Jiangxin looked shy and said gently, it's okay. This restaurant is very secretive. She looked at Ye Xian. She was still a bit worried. The customers who come to this restaurant are not rich or noble. They are not interested in lace news. At this time, Ye Xian took off his mask. Let you break the bank. This meal should be my treat. After all, you have been taking care of me in the theater group. I heard that you have signed a deal to be the spokesperson for the white man's toothpaste. Congratulations. I knew you would make it. Jiangxin lowered her head as if she was searching for something in her bag. She took out a very expensive watch and said to Ye Xian, "This is a gift for you." Seeing this, she hurriedly explained, "Don't be in a hurry to reject it. There is no reason to give it to you last time, but there is this time." Jiangxin sighed and slowly spoke. "This time it is my confession gift." Her face flushed. She said very nervously, "Ye Xian, I like you. Let's be together." Ye Xian was very shocked to hear these words, thinking that Jiangxin just said she likes me. She wants to be with me. At this moment, Bo Tingshen closes the folder in his hand. He stares at the person in front of him with a gloomy face and rereads the file in his hand, but his mind is not on it. The person next to him looks at his gloomy face and breaks out in a cold sweat of nervousness. Is Bo Tingshen dissatisfied with something? Suddenly Ye Xian stood up in surprise and said firmly, "Sister Xin, there is one thing that I have to confess to you." She looked at Jiangxin with a firm look. "I am a gay. I like men, not women." Jiangxin was very surprised to hear this. "Are those rumors on the internet true? Do you really like your captain?" She quickly waved her hand and denied. "He is a good old man and promiscuous. He also has a pretty face. Not my type." Ye Xian hurriedly explains, "I like the kind of man who is particularly manly and ruthless, and who can conquer me." She remembers Bo Tingshen's grim face. A man among men, a fighter among men. Bo Tingshen's face was very gloomy. He looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and snapped and threw the document on the table. The man was shocked and shivered. A drop of cold sweat emerges on the middle-aged man's face in embarrassment. Bo Tingshen violently stands up and turns around, ready to leave. He then looks back at the man who is still sitting in his seat and tells him to come to the legal department on Monday to sign the contract. The middle-aged man was very happy to thank the president. He scratched his head. He had thought that this time he would definitely not pass, but did not expect to take the contract. Outside, the passerby girls have been looking at the house. That person seems to be Jiangxin. She sat her day opposite Ye Xian. The two of them in love blah blah blah. Ye Xian suddenly turned her head away. Her face was very ugly. If they took a picture, it would be bad. So she quickly took off her jacket. She took off her jacket and put it over Jiangxin's head to protect her. "There are fans taking photos outside. I'm going to draw them away. You take the opportunity to leave. Don't be photographed in." So Ye Xian, wearing glasses, hat and mask, ran out of the side door, and one of the girls noticed him. Then a large group of fans chased after and shouted at Ye Xian. Ye Xian didn't dare to stop and ran quickly towards the outside. She thought to herself, "These little girls are faster than rabbits when they are chasing after a star. I have to try to get away from them. There are no taxis around here." She immediately ran to the roadside and was worried about how to avoid these fans. At this time, there was a black car parked on the roadside, and he thought, "I have to do this." Ye Xian quickly pulled open the back door of the car. Then he took the opportunity to get into the car. The door slammed shut, and once in the car, he held his head fiercely. She told the people in the car not to be afraid. She was not a robber, but someone was chasing her, so she could hide herself for 5 minutes. Please. But what people didn't expect was that the person sitting in the car was Bo Tingshen, who asked Ye Xian curiously, "Do you like to get into my car so much?" Ye Xian looks up with an embarrassed face, not expecting it to be Bo again, thinking, what kind of bad luck is this? How did he hide in his car again? So Bo Tingshen asked the driver to drive and took Ye Xian out of there. Ye Xian takes off her mask and explains to him that it's really a coincidence. She is embarrassed and says, "Can you let Mr. Pang pull over? I want to get out of the car." When Bo Tingshen heard this, he held his arm and looked at her coldly and asked, "Do you want to get off?" He didn't care if Ye Xian answered him or not. He just looked forward at Pang Kai and reminded him that there are still 30 minutes left. When Pang Kai hears this, he quickly pivots the steering wheel to change the direction of the car, and then answers, but because it turned too fast, he slammed on the brakes. At that moment, Ye Xian didn't even notice the situation, and before she had time to stabilize herself, she crashed into Bo Tingshen's chest. When she came back to her senses, she hurriedly raised her head to look at Bo Tingshen and apologized to him, trying to explain to him that she didn't do it on purpose. This can't be entirely your fault. It was Pang Kai who braked suddenly and crashed into him. But Bo Tingshen just looked at him sideways. His tone was light. The car does not fasten the seatbelt in the plane. Did not mind that she just bumped up the matter. Ye Xian was embarrassed and lowered her head, thinking, Bo Tingshen can always find a reason to diss himself. But immediately after a grunt came from her stomach, she looked sideways at the window in some embarrassment. She didn't eat much at all in the restaurant just now and was chased all the way by her fans. Now she's so hungry. She suddenly opened her eyes wide and remembered that Bo Tingshen's car seemed to have a car refrigerator, and Bo Tingshen had obviously heard her stomach growl, so she gave him a sideways glance, and then told him to take it himself if he wanted to eat. And Ye Xian's eyes instantly lit up. Peng Kai is driving in front of the car while thinking General's cleanliness fetish is so serious that he actually allows others to touch his fridge. Ye Xian was happy, looking down at the food in the car refrigerator, not forgetting to praise him. Mr. Bo, you are really nice. Taking out a bag of dried strawberries from inside, he looks very happy and asks if I can eat this. I love eating dried strawberries. Bo Tingshen looks at her sideways in confusion and asks, don't you know Russian? Ye Xian looks innocent and confused. I don't know it. What's wrong? This box of dried strawberries is full of Russian words. When Bo Tingshen heard this, he didn't say anything more. He just looked back and told him it's nothing. It's good for you to eat. Ye Xian quickly opened the package, took out a piece of dried strawberries and put it into his mouth, thinking that it was really creamy, sweet and crispy, thinking that this imported dried strawberry is too delicious. Bo Tingshen suddenly asked why she was being chased by her fans today, scaring her so much that she violently choked. After waiting for a while, she hurriedly turned back. I went to Guangmao Mansion to buy something, but I was recognized by a fan, so I ran away for fear of trouble. When she said that, Bo Tingshen probed close to her and asked her to buy something. Didn't the company send you an assistant? Ye Xian can't hang on to her smile any longer, but she is still reluctantly explaining that it's inconvenient to bother others to buy something more private. At this time, Bo Tingshen has been leaning closer and closer. He looked down at the person who was about to be gathered in his arms and asked, erotic products? Ye Xian angrily shouted, of course not. Is a close swimming costume? I'm not good, and my assistant said that the size of this private things. Hearing this, Bo Tingshen's eyes faintly swept over her and began to measure her. Ye Xian instantly blushed and covered her face. She thought to herself, damn it, where's Bo Tingshen looking at? But then Bo Tingshen said something that made Ye envy freeze. Going to buy a swimming costume, and then go into a couple's restaurant with Jiangqin. Ye Xian thought to herself, no way, how would he know? Is that person who is blocked by the tree is a Mr. Bo? She cried out in shock in her heart. Bo Tingshen sidled up and looked at her lightly. You said you were grateful to me last time, but you ended up repaying me like this. Eating Star Entertainment's dividends and going out on a date with Ye Xian. You was surprised that he would think this way, and quickly panicked and waved her hand to explain. It's not like that. I'm not in this kind of relationship with her. Before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Peng Kai. They arrived at the place, so Bo Tingshen reached out and pulled open the car door, ready to go out. Ye Xian sat in the car and watched his back as he got out. She frowned, her face hesitant. Mr. Mu shook Bo Tingshen's hand. Long time no see. Knowing you're coming over today, you got up early in the morning and prepared until now. After a few people exchanged pleasantries, the man of the house went to the front of the car and looked at Peng Kai, smiled and invited. The two of you also quickly come in. The lunch is all ready. But Peng Kai smiled and refused, found a reason that he had already used it. But Ye Xian was puzzled. People warmly invited. Why didn't they go in? Peng Kai explained to her, because the president is here to talk business today. Not to me, friends. Ye Xian happily ate a mouthful of dried strawberries and understood. Peng Kai turned his head and suddenly saw the things in Ye Xian's hand. He was shocked and thought that Ye Xian is so heavy. Standing in the car and eating, Ye Xian suddenly heard the cries of a small child coming from outside and looked over with some doubts. She reaches out and pulls the door lock of the car, pushes open the door and walks out, thinking that the sound seemed to be coming from this side, and wanting to go over to have a look. Peng Kai hurriedly followed her out of the car, wanting to call her back, but Ye Xian didn't hear her at all. So he sighed and thought, forget it, he'd better follow her to have a look. So he followed Ye Xian to a small forest, and they both heard a child crying and saying go away. When they saw the scene in front of them, they were shocked and clenched their fists anxiously, only to see a child kneeling on the grass. A huge wild dog with fangs open, drooling, slowly walking towards the little friend. The little girl was very cute and had two double ponytails, but she was so scared that she kept crying. Ye Xian thought to himself, oh no, that dog is a Tibetan Mastiff. The little girl is in danger. His face became even more ugly. That is not the Mu family's youngest daughter. How will be in the big Tibetan Mastiff where? How should this be good? In this situation, we can only run and find someone to save her. If the Tibetan Mastiff finds us, no one can escape. Ye Xian, however, grabbed the man's clothes and said that no one can leave. After all, once we come and go, the person may be gone. We have to save her now. Are you crazy? Tibetan Mastiffs are more powerful than wolves. They will tear people apart. Suddenly she looked up at the tree trunks above her, and a good idea came to her mind. You do as I say. I guarantee you will not be hurt. Obviously the man was a bit uneasy. Do you want to go to your death? At this time she picked up the stone on the ground, what she is going to do, then violently rushed towards the Tibetan Mastiff side, and accompanied by her shouts, "Remember what I just said." The Tibetan Mastiff, since the human's disdain, had opened its mouth to howl. It seems to have no thought, and when it sees a human, it rushes into him, as if it was instructed to do so. It didn't expect to be hit by a human. How could a small stone hurt him? But as if enraged, it looked at the human with its teeth bared, and along with its yell, it slightly arched its body and was ready to attack. Sure enough, when Ye Xian was frantically escaping, the Tibetan Mastiff behind her rushed towards her like a madman. It quickly showed its sharp claws. Seeing that the human was climbing upwards, it had to open its mouth and bite on. Ye Xian's feet managed to escape, only a few centimeters away at the time. She was lying on the tree with a face of fear, looking at the Tibetan Mastiff that was madly scratching the tree in horror. Her face was flushed and she was panting. She really did it at this critical moment. I successfully distracted the attention of the Tibetan Mastiff. Pang Kai also saved people away. Inside the luxury villa, the two CEOs are discussing the matter. Tingshen, with our friendship, if the land in the new town is offered, I will definitely consider you first. Pang Kai is holding the little girl anxiously and keeps shouting that something big has happened. Ye Xian is being chased by a Tibetan Mastiff. To save Miss Miu, find someone to save him. Bo Tingshen stood up at once, thinking about the truthfulness of this incident. But that person is Ye Xian. Once he hears about her, his brain will be a mess. Pang Kai is holding the little girl with a puzzled look on his face. Why is Mr. Bo in such a hurry? The Tibetan Mastiff is still fighting with the human. It keeps scratching at the tree trunks. Ye Xian is scared and screaming, "Don't hurt my dog, brother. I'm really wrong." Pang Kai, this unreliable. How come he hasn't called anyone yet? She's still spitting, but suddenly she realizes that someone has finally come. She's saved, but the person who came is a Mr. Bo. Why is not the owner of the Tibetan Mastiff came? Obviously, she can no longer think. The Tibetan Mastiff has already rushed towards him. I didn't expect him to show unusual calmness, not the slightest fear of this big man. Suddenly he took out his anesthetic gun and stared at the Tibetan Mastiff with both hands clenched tightly. With a sound, the anesthetic needle quickly shot to it. The big Tibetan Mastiff ate the pain of howling. Do not know what is sticking himself, only to see it slowly fall down. A small anesthetic needle is so useful. Ye Xian is still in the gecko position, but his expression is a bit shocked. Bo Tingshen looks up anxiously. There is no danger now. He can come down, although his tone is cold. He is very excited, because the way he just shot the gun was so handsome, like it was in a film. Now that the crisis is over, she doesn't want to stay on the tree trunk, but she came down in such a hurry that her feet actually slipped. Her hat on the top of her head had to go out, secretly spitting in her heart that she was about to be finished. A pair of hands quickly reached out, waiting for the person below to fall. She closed her eyes tightly without feeling any pain. I seem to be caught. It's really the handsome Mr. Thin, easily holding her tightly in his arms. Ye Xian suddenly blushed. Mr. Bo, you can actually put me down. I can walk by myself. I just slipped. But she was greeted by silence, so she let out a sigh of relief. At this moment, her ankle was lifted up and was being carefully examined. Ye Xian couldn't understand his behavior. It was really strange to touch her ankle. Mr. Bo finally asked if there were any injuries other than her ankles. She can't feel any pain. It feels good to be cared about. She shyly glanced her face to the side, making a face that she didn't want to answer. The door on this side of the car was opened violently. Mr. Bo slowly came forward. The sound of their breathing was clearly audible. Little liar. Then there was a click and the seatbelt was fastened. Her heart was pounding. Who knew that Mr. Bo was so good at flirting? Bo Tingshen sits in the driver's seat and tells her to sit tight. So on the winding road, the car drives out quickly. After the small car is driven by Mr. Bo, it seems to be turned into a racing car. Ye Xian finally understands why he said so. Such a speedy car is simply scary. She shouts uncontrollably, Mr. Bo, are you trying to murder me? Only to see the picture change. Ye Xian is lying peacefully on the hospital bed. She was just about to have a good rest when a group of people came to the door. You've been bitten by a Tibetan Mastiff. You need to get an injection. Mr. and Mistress Miu have gone to settle the score. The doctor raised his hand to indicate Mr. Yi to take down your trousers. She slowly raised the shiny pillow. The gaze machine coldly said injection. Ye Xian was stunned at this. The gender will be discovered. She hurriedly lifted up her sleeve. Hit on the arm cannot it. In fact, from the arm is not as good as the number on the buttocks. There is no opposite sex here. Mr. Yi inconvenient. Ye Xian said where there is no heterosexual. This is a room full of heterosexuals. Our boss is the first one who is dissatisfied. Time waits for no one. Hurry up and take it off. Little Ye Xian shook his head madly. His own evening will definitely be unprotected. Then only heard a snap. Dare a person bet against the Tibetan Mastiff? You are not quite capable. How even trousers do not dare to take off. She was forced to wrap herself tightly. I'm shy nodded. Mr. Thin's long fingers stretched out and slowly approached her, then slightly hooked up the trouser edge, making her a jolt. Do you want me to help you take off your trousers? Ye Xian's face turns red with shame. She hurriedly pressed down on Mr. Bo's big hand, and then shouted, No, doctor, just hit me on the arm. I'm begging you. The doctor sighed helplessly. Okay, then relax. Ye Xian quietly grasped Mr. Bo's arm, and her body shivered. I am most afraid of needles. This little woman's gesture does make Bo Tingshen a little strange. He stares at Ye Xian's little head, and seems to be thinking about something. He glanced his face to the side, and slowly reached out his hand to Ye Xian. Then, he gently patted Ye Xian a few times, as if to comfort her. Coincidentally, she was covering her arm and bumped into Mr. Bo's big hand. She opened her tearful eyes and said, If you don't feel sorry for me, you can still hit me. Our arrogant Mr. Bo immediately retorted, Why should I care about you? A person who doesn't even care about his own safety is just a waste of time to save others. Ye Xian was the first to refuse. I clearly made a promise, and I saved the little girl. Bo Tingshen's gaze is doubtful. What if I'm late today? The mulberry tree would have been cut off, and I would have fallen into the mouth of the Tibetan Mastiff. But I don't think I did wrong. If I were to do it again, I would still make the same choice. At this time, a clear voice rang out. The little girl ran over anxiously, looking for her handsome brother. Ye Xian said he was simply fine and tried to make the little girl relax. Mr. Yi, thank you for saving Xiaoya. We really don't know how to thank you. Make a request? She doesn't feel much about these things, and waved her hand to say no. If you guys really want to thank me, just give me something to eat. I'm a bit hungry. Old boss immediately looked at Tingshen with a decided look. Since Ye Xian refused our thanks, we'll give you this gift of thanks. I'm willing to give the land in the new town development zone to Bo at half price. Obviously, our boss has a different mindset. Why would he willingly give up his profits? To tell you the truth, that land in New Town is a knot in our hearts. 4 years ago, we were in the middle of a business deal and neglected our eldest daughter, who was traveling with us, and she was taken away in a car accident. Today, we almost lost our youngest daughter again, but fortunately Mr. Ip came to our rescue. Now I've decided to let go of my heart and give you this land on behalf of our gratitude. Bo Tingshen said without any hesitation. He simply and quickly agreed. He's so easy to say yes. Why didn't I seize the opportunity just now? Mr. Bo, it's because of me that Mr. Mu transferred the land to you at half price. Shouldn't I be rewarded for this great achievement? Mr. Bo is obviously in a good mood. What kind of reward do you want? I want resources. I want to participate in a popular variety show. I want to relax. Although I love acting, my popularity will increase if I excel in the variety show. Leisurely Days is the most casual, and it's live, so there's no bad editing. There are a lot of people your age on that show, so if you make a scandal, you'll get out of Star Entertainment. I promise I won't make any rumors. Jianxin and I are just a brainchild of the audience. I've already rejected her today, so she'll probably avoid me next time. How's the laundry going? The dry cleaner hasn't called me yet, but I think it's coming soon. I'll send it to you as soon as it's done. He said he'd send it to the office, but he's in such a hurry. Is he short of clothes to wear? The man nodded righteously, but obviously Ye Xian didn't believe him. How could he be in need of clothes? He's afraid that I'll steal the suits. They soon arrived at the downstairs of the neighborhood. Mr. Bo, take care of yourself. I'll go back first. But this man actually asked himself to go over. Is it trying to teach me a lesson? Ye Xian purple eyes full of doubt. What happened? Only to see the man pinch her chin, gently for her to wipe away the residue of the corner of the mouth. Afterwards, he lifted up his deep eyes, and the two of them looked at each other. There is something on your mouth. Her cheeks turned red with shame. Thank you, Mr. Bo. I'll ask Jiang when to send you the variety show announcement. And there's still one more shot of rabies vaccine left. Then she let go of her hand. Okay, you can go. It seems that Ye Xian, after being molested, thinks that Mr. Bo is quite nice sometimes. Not only did he save me, he even wiped my mouth and gave me a little dried strawberry. Such delicious dried strawberries. I have to buy some for home. So she picked up her mobile phone and started searching. Cat's favorite fruit. This bag of dried strawberries is cat food. Then she remembered the man's serious face. Nothing is good for you. Damn it, I was so touched. I'll never be fooled by him again. At that moment, her mobile phone beeped. It turned out to be a clarification message from Jianxin. Ye Xian and Jiangshin are friends forever. Sister Jiangshin is really good. She's so decisive in breaking up the relationship. She's not dragging her feet at all. The other boss shook his wine glass and Saturday leisurely on the sofa. He loosened his tie. Ye Xian, what news in the past 2 days? Actress Jiangshin sent a message today denying her romance with Ye Xian. The first man is not convinced. This year even a woman, and I have to grab small leaves. He thought about it, but he had to make a phone call. He can't be cheated by the crooks out there. Ye Xian happily picked up the phone. Second brother, I was just about to call you. I recently got the endorsement of the white man's toothpaste and the Leisurely Days variety show. Second brother's eyes immediately lit up. Really, it's worthy of you. Zero was taken advantage of by Bo. I will definitely pay you back for this loss. Ye Xian said no. Second brother worked so hard to earn money. Is not it for you to spend it? He opened his mouth with some hesitation. If you are free in the next 2 days, come home for a meal. The main reason is that mom and dad miss you. They're going to a variety show the day after tomorrow, so there's nothing to do in the next 2 days. If I go home, I'll have to face the original owner's real parents. If I suddenly change so much, will they be suspicious? She was anxious to think of a solution, but that time had come. Mom and dad heard you were coming back for dinner and were busy preparing early in the morning. Just now, her parents appeared. Envy. You're finally back. She ran over to them with a dash. Your unfilial daughter is back. I was too willful in the past and broke your hearts. She was fine just now. Why is she crying all of a sudden? My parents were very touched by this. What happened in the past is in the past. Mom and dad won't blame you. It's okay for you to pursue the matter, but every time my daughter remembers it, she feels bad and blames herself. The father quickly tried to calm her down. Mom and dad won't talk about the past, and no one else is allowed to talk about it either. Ye Xian was secretly relieved. After this performance, they shouldn't be suspicious of me anymore. At this moment, her father took out his mobile phone. Your elder brother heard that you are back today. He wants to video with you, so she took it, intending to see the real face of her big brother. What she didn't expect to see was a super handsome guy, not inferior to any celebrities. Is this my big brother? Ye Xian, he's so handsome.